Hello. Sorry, I left something in the car. We'll turn the lights back on in a little bit, but I just wanted to have the ability to see the screen. So have I met everyone here? I see lots of familiar faces. Last time we spent 2 days together. So hi, I'm Stevie. Stevie with Wella. But been a hairdresser for a very long time. Based out of Chicago. I'm a salon owner as well. So this is my 38th year as a hairdresser. Salon owner for 13 years. And I've been with Wella as an educator for 10. So this is my 10-year anniversary, I think this month. Yeah. Sometime, right? We're in March now. So today we are gonna go over some fast coloring techniques. So ways that we can add dimension back into the hair, either through lightening, darkening, vibrancy, tone on tone, different ways that we can add dimension. Not just foiling, but foiling as well, but quick, easy ways, because we all know, as the saying goes, time is money, but also, and we have talked about this before in my classes, is that as hairdressers behind the chair, our clients are coming in and they're asking for a lot, and we're doing a lot. We're doing a lot, and we don't always need to be doing a lot. I think sometimes we're just so used to doing a lot that we are kind of blind to the fact that we could do minimal for a maximum amount of impact. So that's really what the focus is going to be on today. But I do have a couple things that I want to share with you for new products or new shades that are out. And we're gonna go over that. I'm gonna show you some techniques, and then we will be able to work on mannequins, or if you have live model. No one has live model, right? Everybody's working on mannequins. Okay, so the benefit of working on mannequins is they don't have opinions. So you'll be able to kind of pick and choose what you wanna work on. And I think it would be beneficial, since you have the ability to do this on a mannequin, is maybe do one side, one technique, and the other side, another technique. So you can see the benefit of maybe two different type of applications. So, but the key here is that it is a fast and is doing less than what would normally come in as like a full highlight transformational situation. So we have 3 new Illumina shades. Have you all heard about these? They just launched March 1st. So they have not been available until, when was March 1st? Saturday? Okay, so they're available this week. Yeah, just this week. So we have 3 new shades. We have a level 10 stroke 3-4, a level 10 stroke 5-3, and a level 7 stroke 5-3. So we've never had those 5-3s. We've had 3-5s, but we have never had 5-3s. They're gorgeous. The 10 stroke 3-4, where else do we see that? Wrong brand. Color Touch has a 10 stroke 3-4. So remember, at a level 10, that 3-4 is not going to be super punchy, right? It's not going to be real vibrant. And then it's also in the Illumina line. And what do we know about the Illumina line? Anything? Violet based. What else? Sheer coverage, right? So it's going to be very subtle, very soft. It's not going to be a vibrant orange. We think sometimes of those stroke 3-4s as being very vibrant, very coppery. I did swatch them out so that you can take a look. Obviously, you'll be able to see a little better when the light is on. I put those on dry hair, and just remember, those swatches are probably goat hair or something, you know? I mean, I don't know about how human hair they are, but that was on a level 10 hair. So those 10s in real life are not going to be quite as dark. I just felt like they grabbed a little bit dark. Excuse me. Full transparency, I also didn't shampoo it. I just rinsed them right out because I was just in a class situation. Then I was like, I'll just slapdash these and bring them to this class, so that at least you can kind of see what the undertone of it is and everything. So I just can't wait to actually highlight with the 10 stroke 5-3 and the 10-3-4. I use that in a glossing way, but I think to highlight with those. And then of course, with the level 7 being in there too, we could intermix it with the 10 if we wanted to create an 8 or a 9 if we wanted to share that out a little bit more. Okay. Are y'all using Koleston Express? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We don't use much of it, honestly. I have it in my salon, and I don't know. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Like I've used it when I've needed to, like, I missed a spot with gray.
Exactly. It's a great tool to have. It's not a replacement. It's a great tool to have. I do have, I think we talked about this before because living in Chicago, I have a lot of clients that are late, you know, and a lot of traffic in Chicago and stuff. So when people show up 20 minutes late, but I had 30 minutes for their color application, I can just be like, yep, you know, let's do this. And that's also going to depend on how you book, if you're double booked and all that stuff. But the having a spot, a missing spot, people who are just in a rush. Now that I've done it for some people, that works really well for them. They're not real resistant. I have the appropriate shades for them and stuff. They request it now because they're like, why would I want to sit for 35 minutes if I can sit for 10 minutes? So I was a little hesitant to do it back to back to back because I thought that I wasn't sure what the fadeage was going to be like and stuff. But it's for that appropriate client or that appropriate situation. We have 5 new shades in Koleston Express too, but I actually didn't pull them up. Oh gosh, now you're seeing all my personal photos here. Let's see. I don't know if I have it. I don't think I do have it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. You know what? I'll find it later. There's 5 new shades. I just can't remember what they are right off the top of my head. I know there's a couple level 9s, which we didn't really have too much on the blonde spectrum, but okay. Did y'all take a color blocking class? It would have been out maybe 2 years ago. Color blocking. For those of you that have,
I think I scheduled us one, to be honest.
yeah, because it may also sound like something that you don't do a lot of, but there's actually some express placements in here that I really like a lot that are not your kind of like 90s big chunky one color here. For those of you that have iPhones, I can go ahead and airdrop the Create book to you right now. That's the lookbook. And then we're going to go through 3 of my favorite sectionings. All right. Did anybody who wants it not get it?
Can you send it to sandwiches? Thank you.
All right, I'm going to skip past a whole lot of this and okay. So this is the Express face frame. Do y'all have services that are like Express services in your menu? Not really.
Like glazing, gloss, yeah. Not
You have
like-
a kind
not
of,
foiling.
okay,
I don't think-
No, we don't really have any.
yeah.
They're all labeled as what they are.
Do you have like partial, full, that type of thing?
Face frame.
You do have face frame. Okay, you have face frame. Okay. So not necessarily express service, but face frame. So yeah. I think what we've found over the years is that it's just kind of, you know, what people actually get isn't always what they book for, but at least you kind of like try and estimate the amount of time that someone may need. So So this is just, you know, a kind of a staging of a face framing technique where you're also going through, it's a little bit more of an amplified face frame because we are kind of going through and tipping out some of the ends too. So I wouldn't necessarily charge for a face frame for this because we are going more into the internal hair and tipping it out. So that's more product, more time, more technique. But the overall look is very impactful and doesn't take a ton of time. Because I don't know what your clients are still enjoying, but a lot of our clients are still liking a little bit of a rooted look. So they don't mind maybe some of it coming in, but they want to feel fresher, brighter around their face. So the way that I'm doing my face frames is, again, you may already be doing this, but just, wait, where's her face? There we go. I basically take pretty big zigzag section all around the hairline, including the back. If they have long hair and that hair is gonna fall forward. Is that pretty much what you're doing now as far as like what's considered a face frame, or is it just that like front? Yeah. So then the face frame would really only be if you're doing weaves or foils all the way to the root, would really not be any more than 2 foils deep, maybe 3 with that top depending on the round of their head. And then the internal part here, if these ends need to be brightened up a bit, instead of going through and then kind of doing like a whole full type pattern, I basically still kind of mimic this zigzag section here, but take this whole section into either into a foil. She's got a noodle neck. There we go. If I'm just tipping out the ends and I want to keep those roots, I'm really taking that into one huge section and then either painting that section so I'm not getting, you know, any, was that me? You? Me? And then I'm either backcombing or painting. And then when that falls, I'm getting it all throughout the head. It seems like I'm cheating, but I'm really just getting those through those ends. It's not, I'm not trying to get a highlight all the way to the roots. It's just to brighten this up. And sometimes that's gonna be because they wanna be a little bit lighter. It also could be that they're overly toned and then those ends just are not bright anymore. And so we need to just go through, and sometimes I'll just freehand that. And sometimes I'm not even using lightener if those ends are a little bit compromised. Maybe I'm using the 0 stroke 00 with clear. Who did that last time I was here? Someone did the, and to take out the, and you guys were like pretty shocked at how much that direct dye lifted. So that's really good, the 0 stroke 00 with 10, 20, or I would very rarely have to use 30, but to get out if someone has overly purple shampooed or something in their hair. It really is only gonna work with direct dyes. Otherwise, I'm just using either open hair painting or painting within the foil. So then it's just a handful of sections, really, up through the top. So it's kind of like an accelerated face frame, I guess, a face frame, but accelerated. I think we just often take too many sections and too many foils when we could just be a little bit more aggressive about it, especially in that rooted situation. Now, if someone is really looking for highlights all the way to the roots, it just is what it is. You can't make that any faster. It just is, it's kind of like cutting a very clean graduated bob. There's no shortcuts, so it's, the only way to do, when you're doing foils all the way to the root, all throughout the head, faster is to think about what your placement is. I'm going to get more coverage with, taking horizontal sections up the head rather than vertical sections, depending on if I want a lot of contrast or a little bit of contrast. But, okay, so the other express one. I would not say this is necessarily express. This is just a faster way to get impactful color with fewer foils. So this is, you saw how light she was before they toned and glossed her too. But it's important to see that the end result is not high levels of difference, because you really wouldn't want to keep it too contrasty and those biggest sections. So this is going to be either for someone who has lighter hair that you're just lifting a couple levels, or for someone like this who has darker hair and you're lifting, but then you're toning back, so that there's really not more than like 3 levels of difference between the natural and whatever the highlight is. Otherwise, it is gonna look a little chunkier and less blended. It's just by taking those big sections, but it's workable because of the but the minimized contrast between the colors. Does that make sense? There's a flow to it. So basically what that is it was also keeping a rooted look, but integrating foils all the way to the root in it. So if you want to keep it light around the face, then you could do that same face frame zigzag here. Do your couple foils all the way to the root. We know that horizontal, or at least slightly horizontal diagonal, is going to give us the most coverage. So then from there, I can take diagonal, horizontal. Does that make sense? Not quite horizontal, so I don't risk getting lines, because we know that diagonal is going to conform to the head shape best. And then, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm using a teasing comb. So rather than just a regular foil comb, I'm just going to use this. Have you seen one of these before? Yeah, I love these. Just especially for that fine, silky hair, or just that people who have keratin, or some people just have compacted cuticles, right? And you go like this to tease their hair, and it goes, and no tease. And back to silky. So the teasing comb helps, but even with the teasing comb, sometimes hair is just so silky. So when I do you guys do a lot of back combing, teasy lights, foils type stuff? Yeah, you do. Just because I do a lot, because a lot of people are not they're not applicable. The look that the end result look that they want, open air painting is not going to give it to them. They either want more levels of lift than open air painting is going to give, or they have previous color on their hair and open air painting is not really going to lift through that color. So it's a balayage look, but it's in a foil. So when our clients are booking for balayage, that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily using free lights, clay lightener, and hand painting all of them. I just know that as a client, when they say balayage, what I believe that they're looking for is that lived in, rooted look that doesn't have real defined highlights. This is kind of in between that. So I have the foils that are all the way to the root around the face. Then I'm doing some big chunky weaves. How much you tease and how much cushion you have is dependent on how much space you want to leave from where your outgrowth is to where your highlight starts. So you could start halfway down, you could start a half an inch down. It depends on what it is that you're looking for. So then that would be your rooted look, lighten, lighten, lighten. And then over top of it, right over top of it, in a zigzag section, this would be a foil highlight sitting right on top of it. So then you have a highlight sitting over top of where a dark is, and then this all flows together seamlessly. So what you get is ribbons of lightness from the roots to the mids, and then very light all the way through the ends. Because that's what we're seeing a little bit of too, is that people want either darker but with some ribbons of lightness through the top, but they really want those amplified mids and ends. So almost solid through the ends, but they're not looking for solid roots and solid ends. Does that make sense? They still want those ribbons of lightness. So alternating between but it's not taking a whole other section. It's basically, I'm going to do it again. You're going to take one section here. You can do it two different ways. You could go ahead and take the section that you're going to, you could go ahead, pick out your weave, put that in a foil, flip that up, then do your tease underneath it, foil, and then let that foil go. I think it's just easier to just do work the way up the head. But I love the how this looks sitting right on top of it. So you're not leaving hair in between. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's an express chunky highlight. And these diagonal horizontal sections go all the way up. That doesn't mean you have to do it that way, but you could go through, if you don't want to go horizontal like this across the head, of course you could either do a herringbone or a chevron up here, or you could just take a slight mohawk, because most of that is being teased, and then there's just the one highlight to the root in between. Okay, and then we have an express chunky highlight. So this would be a bolder look. I know that they're doing this on curly hair, but this definitely works on, straighter hair or different textures. But it is because it's sitting on the top. Anything that we're doing in this fringe or top section, because that sits right on top of the hair, that's gonna always be a more expressive look. So it's gonna have, we're gonna have to think about what the outgrowth of this is gonna be. So I may take more time in this section and do those foils all the way to the root if that's what they want. But then everything underneath, I'm gonna take big sections back home or do minimal amount of foils all the way to the root, because honestly, especially if someone is looking for a soft, blended, natural look, no one is getting a really light highlight in the back of their head anyway, you know, all the way to the root. That just doesn't look right. And a lot of times, even when we're going with real blonding, because I know you all do a lot of blonding, would you say the blonding is the majority of what you do? I mean, you also have a lot of diversity in Naples with darker hair clients, but would you say that lightening in general is a lot of what you do, or and gray touch-ups? Yeah. I mean, gray touch-ups are always that's our bread and butter. And that's another reason why I like working with these sectionings and these rooted sections, is that I can do this whole placement and then do a root touch-up in between all of this too. So just making sure that if you are doing a root touch-up when you've done a big, you know, back combing like that, sometimes I just leave a little bit of space and then I do my back combing almost above it so that I'm not compacting a lot right in here, so that when I do my root touch-up, I'm not trying to get through this, if that makes sense. So it's almost like I leave a little bit of a drop down of the hair, then do the back combing, and then leave it out. Is it? Okay, you already got your aha moment? You already got it? You already got your aha moment? Okay, class is done for Brenda. Okay. because it's an issue, right?
It's always been an issue for me. I'm like, oh my God, it's that simple.
No, just, I know. I mean, but that's something, I know. Because it's always the simple, I mean, not always, but a lot of times it's the simplest. So, yeah, just just drop it down. Just drop it down and start the back home just a little bit down. Because I've definitely put myself in that pickle before where I'm like, oh crap, now I got to go through and like make sure I'm really saturating through that back combing. So of course, placement on the head is going to be really important when we're thinking about fast foiling too. And something through the top is automatically going to give people, that's what they see, right? Anything around the face and through the top is immediately what they see. So we can always resort to just doing that kind of whatever we call it, T-section or something. But I will do a full head of highlights and give a complete look, but I'm really I'm taking probably most of my time through that top and around the face because I need to be very detailed there, and then I can just whoop through the rest of it, because not that I'm doing a bad job, it's just that I can take bigger sections, I can be more heavy-handed. So this is what the Express Chunky Highlight looks like through the top. I mean, curly hair is very forgiving as well, right? So it does help that she has curly hair. But so if you notice, the sections weren't, we talk about taking sections of weaves or slices. Sorry, I don't know why. It's because I have a microphone on. Right? I got mic'd up and now I can't breathe. So you may have noticed that it wasn't slices or weaves, but they were actually taking triangular sections. Have you all seen the triangular sections before? It was something that they used in the Illuminage. Do you remember that? There was a balayage, Illuminage to Balayage class that came out a couple years ago with Romeo Philippe. Yeah.
I remember it.
Yeah, okay.
I
So
think you guys took it and
What was his name?
with Aubrey Lutz.
Aubrey Lutz.
oh yeah,
Aubrey did it for them.
Yeah, awesome. I just want to go back over what that sectioning looks like. Do they have it back here? Let's see. I'm gonna pull it up. Because the placement on this was through the top, so it's very expressive, but there's a way to do it that is more conducive to kind of like our commercial looks of what we, or what I would say is our more of our everyday look. Okay. So it's using triangular sections rather than thinking of us using these kind of lines of diagonal, vertical, horizontal, but actually using triangles. Oh, noodle neck.
Yeah, I don't
It's okay.
know what happened, but it does it all the time.
These are cool. These are the best actually, but they have so many little gadgety things that it's hard to remember. Like, thank you. So one way that I do this is I use the triangle sections a lot when someone has very thick hair and they're wanting to go a lot lighter, or we're trying to get more coverage. Rather than taking a bunch of slices, I can actually just take these really big triangular sections. And because I'm doing a tease and because they are triangular, it's actually most closely actually mimicking what a hand painting is doing rather than us taking weaves and then backcombing or something. It's still a line of color that we're putting in. This is a different display of color. So an example of the way that I would do a full head of this, and I'll show you the head sheets on it, is I do the hairline just like how we've talked about, taking that zigzag section all the way around the hairline, foils to the root if I want, or if I want to add a little cushion around it. And then back here, I start my triangle. And the way that I start my triangle sections is, the easiest way to do it is a hairline, a nape area is already a triangle, right? It's already an upside down triangle. So if I go through and create an upright triangle in the middle here, I now have 3 triangles, right? 2 upside down, 1 inverted. The hairline is in foils. I have hair here. Add a little cushion, and then I lighten all of this through here. So when you have this much hair that you're lightening in a foil, saturation is always important, but in a situation like this where you are lightening through kind of like more of a cluster of hair rather than that fine line or that fine weave, the best thing to do is take your foil and put the lightener on the foil, then put your foil in, and then put lightener on the top too, so that you're getting a lightener cushion there. Then you have this is in foils here. You do this here, lighten, lighten, lighten. Do the same thing with this row, boom, boom, here. And then when you get to this section up here, now you can start the technique of adding a foil over top. So just like how I showed you how you do a section, you tease, put the foil right on top. Don't have hair in between, because the hair that is pushed up, if I take a triangular section here, I do like to do my foil first. So I will take this I put my foil in. That's a highlight all the way to the root. I clip that up. I have my triangular section underneath. Here's a back comb. Here's lightened. I let this foil down. That highlight is sitting over top. The hair that's in this cushion right here, that's acting as the hair that's in between the foil, normally. Does that make sense? So I know it's kind of habit because we're used to kind of like taking sections, then taking a weave out, then take a section, then take a weave out. But you really want that highlight to be sitting right next to that, right next to that cushion so that it bleeds in. So I do that all the way up the head. This area, the crown, or sorry, the top of the head area, is then going to be customized to whatever you want it to be. Because why? Why are we customizing through here? What's happening up here?
So depending on the hairline
Mm-hmm.
and the desire,
Yeah.
the results that the
Yeah, exactly. So this is the area of, do they want highlights all the way to the root? Do they want highlights that are, drop down a little bit? I'm getting all the lightening and I'm getting all the dimension under here in just a few sections. Now I can be really detailed if I want to be up here, or I can continue, and I would not continue in this section. You can do the triangles all the way through, but in the top section, you really want to do either horizontal weaves, boom, 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 this way, or vertical weaves, depending on if you're looking for more contrast, less contrast, highlights all the way to the roots. It's this area that's where you're going to be very customized. When we do the sides, we have this type of triangle here, the acute triangle. So in the back, we're dealing with these type of triangles, these type of triangles, or these type of triangles, which this triangle backcombed and this triangle backcombed are going to give you two different effects, because this is going to be, of course, less hair coming up to the top, and then it's going to give us a heavy lightness through here. This is going to give us really heavy lightness, but not as much through the underneath. Does that make sense? So when you start to invert these, we're thinking less of the hair as being, the head being on this grid, as it being like on the round, of using it like a beach ball or a pizza or something, where you're bringing these triangles all together. So through the,
How do you repeat that part? Like, what would be the results?
so the triangle, if we do a triangle here, we have, this hair is not going all the way up to that section, right? So this is very heavy through the bottom and less heavy through the top.
Okay.
This is heavy through the top and then less through the bottom, because this is a point down here, so there's less hair that's being pulled into that highlight. So when you alternate those throughout the head, it gives a very organic look of where the start and the end of that color is. And then when you go through the sides, because the side, remember how the nape was a triangle? The side is also a triangle. It's, it's maybe more of a, it's kind of a,
Well, if you finished it, it would be a triangle.
pardon?
You have to create the imaginary.
Yeah, exactly. And then this stuff is actually in a highlight, in a foil, or painted, if you want to do painting. But it is still a triangular shape in that it's narrower here and wider here. So then you can start to take triangular sections this way, right? So that's a triangle section this way. That's a triangular section this way, triangular section that way. It's fun. I mean, if anything, it's like a different way for us to approach color to make it fun for ourselves. But it's a really fast way to get a lot done very quickly. So because you're relying on the fact that you're backcombing and using that cushion. Although you could start to, you could also put a foil on top of those triangles as well if you wanted those ribbons of lightness to also go through the sides. But generally, when the hairline is done, that's such a narrow space right here anyway. I don't like to put a lot of light highlights right in here, because then when people pull their hair back, that outgrowth can be internally in here, and then they see that harshness of the beginning of that highlight all the way to the root, and they don't like that. Whereas if the lightness is right here on the hairline, the depth behind it keeps it really bright. Do you have those clients that they just want to be brighter, but they actually need darker in there? They need some depth, right? And I think that we sometimes, because we're such people pleasers, we've talked about this before, we really want to make people happy. That's why we do what we do, It's not about just expressing our artistic vision or something. I think that's something that sometimes clients are like, they just did what they wanted to do. And I'm like, what benefit is that to me? I don't care what you do out in the world. Like, I want to make you happy. That's what, why I do what I do. And that's why it's important for us sometimes in those situations to explain to our clients that actually what you need is some depth. Continuously going lighter is not, there's nothing to pop against it. So I don't always say the word darker. You have those blondes, maybe don't want to say darker. You just say you need some richness in there or something, it's the same thing. But, you just need a little, we need to put a secondary color in there or utilize some of your natural color so that these highlights become highlights, that they actually are popping. So these are also ways to help minimize that overly highlighted look that people can get themselves into, or we can get them into. So let me pull up what a full head section of this would be. Yeah, it sounds like Brenda said you did this class, but I just want to show you this again real quick because it's a pretty.
There's a lot of new people too.
Yeah, and it's a really impactful. Should I send this Create book then too? I can send this Create book. I love this. Okay, triangular section. Sorry, I'm just trying to minimize the. Okay, so this is her before and this is her after. So we're seeing very bright around the face and through that hairline halo area, but then there's richness behind it with just little ribbons of lightness coming through the top. Why isn't it playing? Nope. Sorry, I don't know why that video is not working. We'll go back. It's okay. Okay, so here's that sectioning again that I showed you. So this is indicative of large weaves here, and then you start that triangle section. So we have the triangle and the inverted triangle. Moving up the head, and then if you choose to, then if you want to do the slices or the weave over top, then I would go ahead and just do this triangle, so the triangle down, because if we did the triangle up, it would not make sense to have a highlight right over top of that. because you'd have the pointed up here and then the highlight sitting over top it wouldn't read the same. So you would just switch into having all of your triangles be pointed down with the foil over top if you want those ribbons of lightness. That can be a slice if you want a stronger veil of color. If you want to keep contrast of lightness and darkness, then it would be a weave. Very customizable. These are the acute triangles, so these are the triangles again through the side, but utilizing a foil over top if you choose. And then through the top here is your weaves, again, because that is horizontal section, very fast. That would really only be if you were doing a back combing technique through the top. If you were gonna do a foil all the way to the root, you would probably wanna do a little bit of a smaller weave, depending on your blending, or if you were gonna do a root melt or a root tap. Really wanna see, yeah, because you see how big those sections are that they took here. Really want that video though. Oh well. And then here's another one, which is taking zigzags all through the head and doing back combing. So I actually did this, I want to show you on a model I did a couple months ago. Do you have many curly clients? Not too much? Not that curly.
Is that still considered an express service or?
The triangle?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was an express. It's a way for me to get through a head of hair that is thick, that maybe I only have 45 minutes for an application and they were down for a partial, but they actually want to get all through. I feel like I showed you an example of that last time I was here. I'll try and find the picture. I had this girl come in, she's beautiful hair, Puerto Rican, hair down to here, had no color on her hair, and the picture that she showed me was all solid light through the bottom, heavy, heavy face framing, and I had 45 minutes for that application. And I was like, all right, we're going in with big sections, because she did want a little bit of a rooted look, but she wanted a heavy face frame and ribbons of lightness through the top. So I was able to, I just put that hairline in first, did the top first actually so that we could go ahead and start to get her light, and then just quick took a bunch of triangles throughout and I used a lot of products. So I used their foil, but they're almost like cardboardy paper because her hair was so heavy and I was putting so much lightener in one thing that I just went through, and yeah, it was one of those, like, I hope it worked. But you know, I knew I had to trust my process, and I understand saturation enough that I knew that I could take those big sections as long as I knew that I was properly saturating. So I did take the time to properly saturate, but I just want to show you this situation. Although you don't do a lot of curlies, but this is a way that you can do something very quick. So she had like 1.5-year-old box color on her ends, and I wasn't sure how her hair was going to lift. Oops. Oh gosh. I wasn't exactly sure how her hair was going to lift. So and I had 2 hours to prep 4 models for a show. So this was my sectioning for her. And I do this on straighter wavy hair as well, but because of the back combing, I know that it's not gonna look chunky, and also because I was I think it was 14 foils. And then this is the final look. But again, because I knew that we were not going 7 levels lighter, you know? I knew that I was not trying to get her to a 9-10. And because her hair was curly, that I could take, and I'm backcombing, and the angle of my foil, and that it was a weave, that I was getting this, that I would get a lot of color distribution off of very few sections. I mean, none of these techniques are not going to be perfect for every single case, you know, that walks in the door, but okay. So I want to go over one of the new collections for 2025 is actually a focus on color touch and using color touch, because color touch is a very versatile sorry, look it up. You can just look it up. Color touch is a very, very versatile line because we can use it for gray blending, we can use it for vibrancy, we can use it to darken, we can use it to tone, gloss, glaze. We can use it to get a slight lift or shift out of the hair. We can use it for deposit only. So color touch has a lot of versatility. And then the restaging of color touch, they really also wanted to focus on the fact that we now have the vegan claim. So they have removed, you guys already probably know all this, right, with your last class? You've seen the packaging is different? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you know about the?
Okay, no, so you.
Okay, so so there's been some changes, not just in the packaging. So you've seen the boxes look a little bit different. The boxes look a little bit different. We're starting to also integrate the alphanumeric on all of the packaging. So where we know Wella as being the tones symbolized by numbers, we're also integrating letters into it. So instead of just being a 7-stroke 1, it's going to be a 7-stroke 1, and then it'll say an A for ash. And that's because they wanted to make it more appealing for people who don't know Wella. So if someone who doesn't know Wella goes to a Cosmoprof and they're like, I heard that Wella makes beautiful reds. What's a 7-stroke 3-4? I don't know what that is. That doesn't make sense to me. But if they make that 3-4 into a G, C, oh, that's gold copper. Then it makes sense to them if they're coming from a different line. So they're not gonna do away with the numbers. They're just adding it in, just to make it easier for people to transition from other lines or people that maybe just want to dabble a bit. So that is you're going to see more and more of on all the lines. Like as the new packaging starts to come out in all of the lines, you'll see that. The other thing that has changed are the developer bottles. So now we have the flat top developer bottles, which is much easier for distribution and is also much easier if you do the refills with gallons. So who's ever in charge of that, it makes it a lot easier than to refill. But what's also inside of Color Touch has changed a little bit. None of the changes are impacting the way that it is performing as a product. All of the old Color Touch can be mixed in with the new Color Touch. That's not a problem whatsoever. None of the technology has changed as far as the way that the color processes or any of that. What's changed is that in the chassis or what is in the vehicle that lives in in the color used to be beeswax. So we could not have a vegan claim. So they removed the beeswax and replaced it. So it might just look or feel a little bit differently, but they intermix together totally fine. It's just a little bit, do you care if I sit? Okay, great, thanks. Is that unprofessional? I mean, we're like friends now, right? I mean, I can sit. Did you see me like inching towards? I was like, I'm just gonna sit. So the what's in the, what's just in the base of it has changed. What has also changed is, do you remember when you mix up Color Touch in the bowl and it has like those little shiny sparkles in it? Okay, this isn't anywhere printed. I just know it. I just know it. It's not anywhere printed, but I got word from Wella directly. So that was from an ingredient called mica. Does anybody know what mica is? Yes? It's a mineral, yeah. It's a rock, it's natural, it's a part of, our shiny, yeah, it's just a shiny rock that is like shredded up. It really did nothing at all as far as performance goes. It didn't make the hair shinier. It wasn't something that stayed in the hair. It was just for us as hairdressers to be like, ooh, shiny things. Yeah, like it looked pretty in the bowl, and it was kind of, like if clients looked at the color, it looked, like, ooh, that's a shiny color. But they just, Wella, in their attempts to be more ingredient conscious, felt like that's just an extra that isn't needed. It serves no purpose, let's take it out. So they took that out, so you won't see those sparkles anymore. And the other big upgrade is the metal purifier technology that lives in alumina, that first started in alumina as encapsulating the copper or minerals in the hair to prevent it from interacting with color and possibly coming up with, some sort of odd color in the hair because of the existing minerals. And then they put it in Koleston Perfect. When Koleston Perfect got the upgrade a few years ago, it's now in Color Touch as well. Which is actually really great for Color Touch because we often use Color Touch for glazing and glossing. And what do we think of? We think of blondes. And when we think of blondes, what do we think of? Porosity, yeah. And so they would be more susceptible to metal deposits. I mean, I'm sure that you guys have all sorts of water situations here, yeah? Because there's, you live, yeah.
Chlorine, then there you have the orange out in the gate,
Yeah.
like the whatever that is, the iron or
Mm-hmm.
well water, whatever it is.
Yeah, we have, there's, exactly. I mean, every area kind of has their, for us in the city, I mean, our water is great because we have lake water and it's, we have some really good drinking water. It's the dang pipes. Because our city's very old and when they redid the pipes in front of my salon, our street was dug up for almost a year and they redid the whole sewage system. They were pulling out wooden sewers because my building was built in 1888. They had wooden sewers under there, which I guess is probably better than in some ways but I mean, it was a combination of like, who knows what, metal and then some wooden stuff too. So there's like you go into certain people's apartments and you got to turn the water on for about 30 seconds because it kind of comes out orange, there's all sorts of, oh, there was a breeze, maybe. So having that metal purifier in the Color Touch now is just another safety measure in making sure that we get a nice, even, root to end color without worrying about the heavy metal deposits. I was sometimes, and Brenda goes way back with Wella, but I remember back in the day, we were always told not to use Color Touch on dry hair. And then that was one of the reasons I was like, oh, the hair's so porous and there's like wild stuff in there. And then, as time goes on, technologies change and blah, 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 understanding how you would mix for Color Touch going on dry hair versus towel dried hair And now with the metal purifier, it's just a better insurance policy. So, yeah. So I'm just gonna go over a couple different techniques. So super pretty, super vibrant. So we're talking about melting, meaning not super high contrasting, either melting level into different level or melting juxtaposition of different hues or tones in the hair, personalizing it with, you know, not just one color from roots to ends, but maybe integrating 2 or 3 shades in. I've been really working on this for the last, really since COVID, because what I saw was that people were doing their own hair. And we just talked about how so many of our clients are root touch-ups, right? So as our clients are getting more information and more access to coloring their own hair, I need to make sure that I'm offering them something that they cannot do themselves or recreate themselves. So these are almost like advanced single processes or ways that you can add dimension into the hair without adding high contrasting highlights in the hair. I'm not going to go over all of this, and I'm going to send you the Create book on this as well. They named them some cutesy stuff. So we have the vanilla and the chocolate and the caramel. And what is this one? Pumpkin spice. Okay. That's really weird to talk about that stuff in this warm weather. Okay, so obviously this is for people who already have a lightened base, or for someone that you are going to add a little bit of lightening in and then gloss or glaze over top. This is really great for people who came in and their hair's faded out a bit and you actually need to just either add more vibrancy or richen up. It's not so much that you're going to be doing a whole lot of lightening in any of these. I'm not going to go through all of this. So you really want to have 3 shades. So whether you're mixing, or 3 to 5 shades. So that's that you're either mixing up 2 or 3 colors, but then you're creating those other shades because you're overlapping color. So then it becomes that mid color. So whatever color A is, and then color B is going to create color C when you're overlapping it. So it's not that we're mixing up 5 bowls of color. It's just that color is being, I mean, you could, but that seems a bit much. But we're creating these layers, right? So think of like you're creating, and even in this is just like one thing, but because of the way that the light is hitting it, you're getting that light reflection and dimension. So I've been doing kind of these things already, like I said, with my clients during COVID when they would come in. Instead of me just refreshing with one color through their ends, I was going through and taking big sections and just maybe doing 2 levels difference when I was doing that refresh. Has to be like 2 levels difference in order to show up. Or I was doing a warm against a cool. So maybe I'm, you know, running a 6-stroke 1, but then I'm also doing a 6-stroke 4 or a 6-stroke 7 something, 3, 7, 5, you know, or something that has a little bit of a juxtaposition there, whether it be hue, lightness, or lightness and darkness. And there's 2 different fast applications of this. So we're either going to do vertical sections working around the head so that we get these elongated ribbons of color, or we're gonna do it on a diagonal and get these, it's kind of, there we go. A diagonal is going to give us a more seamless blend of tones, and then where the tones are going to be sitting more on top of each other, but because they're at an angle, there might be some slight vertical coming through. So then we're probably already doing, I mean, do you guys do a lot of like root taps or root melts or giving a little dimension at the root? So that would be an express. That's just something that's really quick that you can do. So just by adding a little depth or vibrancy somewhere and doing two different colors, where you're doing one color at the root and one color at the ends. That's one way to do something in addition to those other two. So, and you could do a combination of that too. You could also be doing a deeper root with all of these and then adding different tones through the ends. These are the different palettes. I don't know if you guys are into mood boarding. I'm into mood boarding. I always like to, especially when the seasons change. Well, I guess you guys don't have seasonal change. And when the seasons change in Chicago, people get really itchy to change their hair up. But I think you guys still are influenced by seasonal change because people, you know, there's different holidays associated with it, or
It's more like winter and summer.
yeah, it's like winter and summer, right? Yeah. And winter means the door can still be open, but this one is cold. But and I'm like dying when I got off the airport in the airport yesterday. I was like, oh, so hot. I like to put together mood boards so that they don't have to necessarily be seasonal mood boards, but just mood boards of different color palettes, different textures. So this is the cherry melt. So you can see by the colors that they used, they're not super highly contrasting. We used a 4-4 stroke 6-5, a 7-7 stroke 5, and a 6-6 stroke 5. So those are only a couple levels. There's only 2 levels difference between the darkest and the lightest. But they're also adding in some special mix into some of those mixtures just to add a little bit more pigment and a little bit more vibrancy. And again, the overall look is not high contrasting, right? But it's just the way that the light hits it. It has almost that kind of metallic feel, or that liquid, sort of how the light bounces off of it. It's really beautiful. It actually looks prettier on my screen. I'm going to send you guys the Create book on that. So if you want to open up your airdrops again, so that you can also see what I'm seeing. This is the only time I've ever taught a class where someone isn't like, I don't know how to turn my airdrop on. So either you guys are really all very knowledgeable, or someone doesn't want to speak up if they don't know how to turn on their airdrop. All right, who failed? Did everybody get it?
I didn't get it.
You didn't get it? Who are you? Oh, here, maybe this is you. Are you phone 75? iPhone 75?
Little settings.
Could you send it to Andy again?
Andy failed. Yourself failed.
Andy failed. I thought it was your last name. I was like, Andy Field. Lizette? Lizelle?
Thank you.
Sure.
I didn't.
All right, we good? All right, so this is the before on this. They did do a little freehand painting in order to get a little dimension in, because obviously she's coming in pretty dark. And understanding that color touch is a demi-permanent, we aren't going to get that much vibrancy unless we add. But this could be as simple as even a wet balayage for 15 minutes just to kind of, open up that cuticle, we're going red, so it's not like you have to get to a blonde. You just want to add a little bit of dimension in there. So it can be really quick, just to prepare you for then the second process of using those colors. So both very quick. This doesn't have to be, you might look at this initially and be like, oh my gosh, that's a double process, right? Like I have to bleach out the whole head and then put this color on, but it's, it can just be in big panels, either through, balayage, wet balayage, or doing some hair paint in the foils, especially if her hair is previously colored. So sometimes I do that a lot when people are looking, especially for vibrant reds or super vibrant, is that I'll just almost like I don't want to say it's a shampoo bleach cap, but it's kind of just to kind of rough up the hair a little bit and make it ready. So then there was an all over root application of a 6/6 stroke 4/5 with a 4 stroke 6, and then they alternated 3 different colors through the ends. So very close in range, the 6/6 4/5 with a 4 stroke 6, a 7/7 stroke 5 with a 4/4 stroke 6/5, and then just the 4/4 stroke 6/5. You could have probably reduced it down to 2 and gotten a really similar effect. And then how you melt those colors together, that's going to be depending on what you feel comfortable with, but usually what I do is I'll do a root application, comb it through, and then work around the head in either diagonal or vertical sections. I always have a towel clipped here. So I take 2 butterfly clips right here, like that, and I have a towel right here to wipe my hands off. Not quite as important, and then it'll look like this, but if I was doing lighter shades, or if I was doing a cool and a warm shade together, I would want to make sure, because I really like doing melts with my hands. So I start with a comb and then I kind of just melt it through with my hands, which also makes for a very quick application. This is the pumpkin spice melt. Again, not huge differences in the color. We have a difference between a level 10 stroke 3/4 and then a level 7 stroke 4/3 with an 8/4/1 in between. So all very similar, but just a touch difference so that the overall effect has these layers of different depths, and where the light hits it is going to have different subtle highlights, not highlights in the way that we think of as painting in ribbons of lightness, but more like light reflective. So obviously, again, she came in with her hair was already lightened. I mean, I'm sure that being here, your clients are coming in sun bleached all the time, yeah? So they kind of come in with a fresh palette for you to be able to work with. And then this is the chocolate melt. So again, 6 to a level 8, working with tones, the 05s. Have you guys been playing with that? Do you have the 05s in?
We do.
Yeah, they launched in September.
I don't think it's we haven't been using them.
Yeah, I use them a lot, but I do have a lot of brunettes, and I have a lot of brunettes that maybe want a little bit of a warm, but don't want that gold warm or that copper warm. So, and it's not real burgundy either. It's just a very soft, natural. I have those swatched as well. So if you have the 05s in and you're unsure about what they look like, and you have been hesitant to use them, here's colors. Here's the swatches. So when the lights come on, you guys can take a look at these. And then I also swatched out the new Shinefinity shades that also came out in the fall. I'm not sure if you all have those. The 1036, the 09, the 3s.
Yes.
Yeah, the warm collection, and then the this booster of the 5/6. So I've been using the 00 stroke 5/6 Shinefinity on my brunettes like crazy, like on your hair. I've been using on that because it's not pink. It doesn't come out like this because your hair's not light enough, but putting it over a brunette like this is just gorgeous. But anyway, you guys take a look at these when we turn the lights back on. So this would be an example of, especially if I have a client who gets gray root touch-ups or some sort of, single process normally, of how I would do one color at the root and then run those 2 different colors through the ends. This isn't just always about going darker or toning or glossing. You can do this along with a permanent color as well if you are doing Koleston Perfect. If you're doing it at the same time, you just want to make sure that Koleston Perfect and Color Touch don't overlap. So you can overlap Illumina and Koleston Perfect with Shinefinity. You can overlap those colors. You can overlap Shinefinity with the permanent colors, but you can't overlap Color Touch. Those cannot overlap. Does that make sense? Why? Yeah, well, I don't know, because I think that because Color Touch uses a different alkalizer. Color Touch uses MEA rather than ammonia.
But Shinefinity uses MEA, right?
Is it MEA? That's a good question.
I think it does, if I remember.
I thought it was just a low developer of, I thought it was just a very low
Because it can't
ammonia.
use ammonia, because it would be, because it's a demi.
You're right. That's a really good question, Brenda.
Sorry, Stevie.
No, I want to know too. But I just know
I
that.
refresh my ends a lot with Color Touch.
Uh-huh.
Not that I'm permanently putting it on there.
Yeah.
Just on the ends, but I'm sure that it gets on there, and I'm just curious.
I'm
So a
not
lot of
saying
my
I've
redheads
never
have to
not. I'm not
refresh
saying
them
I've never done
every
it.
time.
I just think that you would have inconsistent results. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm so curious. Now I gotta know. I gotta know.
Yeah. I'm curious too, why they say that. Okay.
There's only a tiny alkalizer in Shinefinity, right? I mean, it's just very, very
Right,
tiny
it
because it's
goes
not
down,
because it's only a
low,
it's
but
a
Color Touch is still up higher.
oh yeah, Color Touch is up. Color Touch is like a
that's
pH of
why.
like 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Shinefinity,
Is a 6.5.
yeah, and then goes down. It only is just very quick too. So, but the yeah, I thought it had to do with the alkalizer, but it might just have to do.
Maybe it's that pH.
Well, the pH definitely helps when you use Shinefinity and Koleston Perfect or Illumina, because then it starts to shut down the development of the Koleston Perfect and the Shinefinity. But the way that they overlap, you get this really beautiful intermediary color. But I don't know what happens with Color Touch and KP together. But I think I thought it was because of the MEA, but you're right. I mean, Shinefinity might have MEA. I don't know. We'll ask.
We'll have to look into that.
I'll ask. This is definitely a blonding situation, blonding with different toning. And this is something that I like to do too with my blondes, because my blondes are also buying wild stuff on the interwebs, to gloss and glaze their hair, right? They come in and their hair, you're like, why are you lilac? Oh, because I do a purple mask once a week, and you're like, ah. So if I can do something through my glazing or glossing process to give multiple tones through the ends, that's not something they can create at home. So even just using a 1 and a 6 and a neutral and a 1-6, just for that light reflection. I mean, sometimes I even like to put something like a 10-stroke 9-5, just to give it like a little bit of a pinky blush or something. I can't wait to use the new 10-stroke 3-4 in Illumina, or the 5-3 as a gloss. I think that'll be really pretty. But then mix that in with like a 10-1 or something. So there's, it's the same level, but different tones. And then this one is a reverse balayage. So this is where we're taking someone who is coming in like this, who is either a previous single process color, or someone who became very overly highlighted and they want to go richer, darker. Now, I could spend an hour and a half and do 100 foils of lowlights in that, or I could do this technique and do a reverse balayage and then get this end result look, just by going through and weaving out some sections. Do you all ever do reverse balayages or braided balayage technique? Yeah. So the way that I generally, I mean, of course, we're always going to have the ability to customize, but the way I'm generally going to approach this is by probably want to keep it light around the face. So I'll just go ahead and isolate those sections there. I'm just going to clip this whole slide out of the way. Then as I'm moving up the head, whatever quadrant I am, and I do break this down just into 4 quadrants because it's just that easy. I'm going to take diagonal sections. I'm going to make this a dark section, then I'll weave out. I'm going to make this a light section. Do a zigzag, and I'm going to make this a dark section. Weave out slightly smaller, and I'm going to have that be a light section. And I'm just leaving it out. You have to do the color as you go, at least at the roots. But what you want to do with the ends, you can kind of figure out as you go. I like to just go ahead and on my light section, so I'll go ahead and do my roots. And my roots are either going to be, she either wants a little bit lighter than her outgrowth, so then I would use a Koleston Perfect maybe to just shift her a little bit, or however much a bit or whatever. Go ahead and do the Koleston Perfect. I would then rinse that out, and I can apply Color Touch on towel dried hair, which also makes for a quick application and for ease of separating the 2 colors. I still, even though I just colored her hair, I still would want to put something at her roots just to keep everything clean. So I can either do something very close to what she already has. I can even do a clear if I don't want to touch her natural color at all, or I can do something close to her natural color, or I can do a little bit lighter than her natural color. And then when I go through to do these sections and I go to make this one dark, then I can comb that, whatever is happening here, then go ahead, make that dark. I like to go ahead and put my light on, because if I don't, then this hair is going to be dry sitting against this color, sitting against this that has color on it.
These aren't separated with foils, they're just kind of
Correct, they're just out. That's why it's fast. We're not dealing with foils. It's just, yep. And then just take another section.
Why will you start with the dark color?
This is dark.
Yeah, but the first section you took, you
Oh.
say that is there any specific reason? No.
You can do whatever you want. I'm just showing you the sectioning. Yep. I mean, in general, you're going to want to keep it lighter around the face. So I would just do that all light. If you want to do this light and then dark and then, I mean, it's just more like the sectioning is that you're just moving up the head in a diagonal, and then you're just separating like that, just separating the 2, dark and light. That's it. It's so, oops. Let me see if I have a video on it.
I like to have dark on the bottom, because then the light's on the top of it, but that's just.
Yeah. And it kind of depends on how they wear their hair too. Because if they wear their hair up and they're like, I want light all the way around, then you want to leave the light on the bottom. But I like the dark on the bottom so that the light can sit on the top. But we get really heady into like what's happening in areas of the head that our clients pay 0 attention to. So that's another mindset to get over, is just, you know, don't worry so much about what's happening right here. They're never gonna see it. I mean, yes, you don't wanna leave bleeders or like, holes of color or anything, but we just put a lot of effort into, but then that's the end result look. So, very pretty. I wanna show you one that we did at the salon. That was pretty startling. What was this? Give me a moment to go through all my gazillion of photos here. You can tell I'm a hairdresser, huh? Look at my Christmas cake, though. That was a chocolate black forest with chocolate ganache. Yep. Meringue mushrooms, sugar-coated rosemary, and that's a pistachio moss. I'd bake a cake once a year, and when I do it real good. Okay, I'm coming. Where is it? Is this it? No. This one. Okay. This is her before. She did this herself, by the way. We were like, wait a minute. Do you want to be a hairdresser? That's pretty good, right? Like, I mean, she has level 2 hair, I thought we were pretty impressed. I mean, we're not supposed to be, too impressed. Yeah. We're not supposed to encourage it, but I thought she did a pretty good job. But she wanted her hair to be healthier. She was looking for something more low maintenance. So she had showed us, let me see if I have, this was her inspiration photo that she gave us, or one of them. She had given us several inspiration photos. But this is the way that it came out. And we did that in one step with a balayage, no filling, using color touch.
So you did that technique, like the braided
We did this braided balayage technique, yes.
So what was the formula then? Like super warm?
We had 2 different formulas. So we did a level 5. I want to say it was a 573. Because we weren't filling, so it had to have a little bit of warmth, but we did want a cooler end result.
Not that warm, but you would have had.
Right, but she did have, I mean, if you look at it close.
Like it's warm, but it's not as warm as I would think for like a 7.3, maybe even some.
Yeah. So we did, I don't think I have any pictures of it. So we did paint at her root because she also had where's her beginning? She had a real clear line of demarcation here, right? So we had to stretch that root out, but we didn't want to stretch it out at a level 2. So we stretched it out at a level 5. So we did a 5 at her root. It's color touch. It's not really going to do too much. It's going to make her shiny, but it's not going to do too much with a 1.9. So then we did her root first, combed it down a little heavier through the back, kept it up a little bit higher through the front, and then went through with this exact same technique and then just alternated, and I can't remember what it was. But you can see, do you see how there's pops of gold through here though? So she did have some gold in there. It wasn't as if her hair was completely white. So we also weren't convinced that she wasn't going to want to be bleach blonde in like a month. So by using the color touch, I knew that this was going to be really nice fade out as well. Yeah, what do you think?
Would you say that she was blonder than what that picture or video shows?
Like in person?
In person?
Because usually the pictures are not exactly.
Yeah, and it was also a little later in the day, right? So you can see like the background has lost a lot of the natural light, and it's more of the like the incandescent light that was coming through. So yes, I would say she was
So
even
like that's more
like right, like you can see more of the lightness through there. Yeah, that's a good call out. I think it was like a 5 and an 8. It was a 5 and an 8 that we put on there. Yeah, and it was like in the 7.3 range, something like that. I can't remember exactly. I probably have it on our Instagram, but I can't remember. But that was her, I mean, that was her goal. You know, obviously we didn't curl her hair, but I think it was pretty close. I should reach out to her because that was November. It was mid-November. I'd like to see how her color ended up turning out. But anyway, I hope that you guys got some ideas. The rest of the class is really going to be kind of self-directed. The whole point is to just, you have mannequins, do something that you haven't done before. So if you haven't done a reverse balayage technique, or if you want to see, hey, what does it really look like if I just did the hairline and then did those huge diagonal foils with back combing? What is, you know, I want to see what that actually looks like. You could do one half of the mannequin, one technique, one half of the mannequin. You can probably do the braided balayage because you have a light one. If that's something that you want to do, if it's not something that you regularly do. But yeah, I don't have any direction as far as that goes. I brought some color swatches as well. So if you guys also wanted to just, if you have any, I'm here at your disposal until 2 o'clock. We have 2.5 hours. So I'm here for you guys to pick my brain, for you guys to experiment. You know, we made it a shorter class because it's supposed to be a short technique. So we're putting it to the test to see how much you can kind of achieve using these kind of quicker techniques. Does that sound good? Okay, cool.